Why are you not where you want to be? Here we are for part two, per your request. I've made a part two to the video. I'm sure part one made many of you feel pretty good, right? Because we talked about one of the biggest catalysts for you not being where you want to be in life is your environment. And so as we take inventory and audit that, while a lot of that could be painful, I think that by having the awareness, it gives us hope. It gives us understanding. It gives us clarity. For many of you, you already knew that there's relationships that don't serve you. You already know that they're toxic. You already know with certain people that call your phone when you look, you know it's going to be some nonsense, some drama, something that's not helping you get better in life. Like we all know that. Yet we feel like we're in bondage to these relationships. We feel like we have to continue to further these relationships, but those relationships as we continue them aren't furthering us. And there's nowhere in scripture, there's nowhere in the Bible that says that we have to stay yoked to anybody or anything that is keeping us from everything that God has for us. Period. So we've made that up. We let society, culture, and generations of bad doctrine tell us different. Okay. So I want to free everybody from that. However, now we got to talk about some stuff that you got to do, right? We talked about what everybody else may be doing that's incongruent with where you're trying to go. But the biggest reason why you need to change your environment is because of who you need to become to go and do the things that God has called you to do to have the stuff that he promised you will have. And so in this video, I'm going to break down to you 3 different things that you need to do in order to make sure as you change your environment that you become the person to now attract the new environment that you need. And that's this part right here you do not want to miss, because everybody needs somebody, right? So at every point in our life, we're going to need different people, which are part of God's provision to carry out the vision. Which, let's just start right there for a second. Okay. So there's a scripture that says that where there's no vision, the people will perish. Okay. And what that means is where we don't have clear vision for our life, everything in that environment essentially dies. So if you don't have a clear vision of the great marriage that you want, if you don't have a clear vision of what you want your health and fitness to look like, if you don't have a clear vision of what you want your parenting to look like with your children, if you don't have a vision of what you want your business to look like, a vision for your lifestyle, a vision for your relationships, if you don't have vision for each one of these areas, then guess what happens? Then you end up with things that are dead that are around you. They're not green and growing, they're brown and dying. And the reason for that is because we need to have a very specific vision for everything that we want in life. So much so the scripture in Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision, make it plain, so that when those that read it can take it and run with it. Meaning we're not only supposed to have vision, but clear vision, so much so that when people read your written vision, they totally get it and can run with it, right? And execute on it on your behalf. And the reason why that's so important is because if you don't have a clear vision, then you can't reverse engineer your process of getting there. So for instance, back in 2006, right, from 2004 to 2006, I had gained 60 pounds, right? I know it sounds crazy. It was bizarre. Okay. What I later figured out was I was going through a wild time in my early 20s where I was really trying to figure myself out. I didn't love myself, which is why I even let myself get to a point of gaining that kind of weight. And so I started to come around 2006. I'm like, oh, this is crazy, right? Got on the scales, 208. I immediately put on a sweatshirt, went and found a trail and never got off, right? Some 17 years later, I literally have kept that weight off for 17 years. And it ain't because I don't eat ice cream on the weekend, okay? It's a process, it's a lifestyle. I teach all of this inside of our Believers in Business community. And I say that to say, at that point, in that moment, in 2006, I got very clear about what I wanted my vision to be for my health. Now, I had been small my whole life, and I think partly why I gained the weight was because I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could gain weight. I never had been able to. I was always an athlete. I graduated high school at like 148 pounds, and I was maxing out at 275 on the bench, right? So I always been strong, athletic, but I was small in nature, very lean muscle, like zero body fat. And so when I got into my early 20s, I kept saying like, it'd be cool to gain some weight. Well, I gained 5 or 10, which was cute. And then it wasn't so much so when the other 50 came on, right? But I'm saying all of that to say when I got clear vision in 2006 about what I wanted my health and fitness to look like, then I started devising a plan and I stuck to that plan. See, when you're not first clear about what the goal is and what the vision is, then it's very hard to discipline your human nature to align with that goal. Which is why every time that you just get a gumption of, you know, I'm gonna go on a diet. That's why they don't work long term, because you haven't had a clear vision yet. You just know that you don't necessarily like what you see in the moment, and that's enough for you to do something, but that's not enough for you to sustain it when you don't feel like doing the thing. I went to the gym today and did legs, and let me tell you, it was horrific. But I'm so clear what my vision is, it's a non-negotiable for me, and it has been for 17 years. So where there's no vision, the people will perish. Where there's no vision, whatever you're doing dies. That's what happens. So we got to get a very clear vision about what we want every aspect of our life to look like, because when your vision is clear, God would also make the provision. And he'll start to send you the right resources and people and knowledge and wisdom and clarity in all those areas where you have been very clear. Because now that you're very clear, you can pray and consult with him about exactly what it is that you want specifically in your life. Right? So that's a freebie. I ain't even gonna charge y'all for that one. Okay. Now, in addition to that, it's three things that you have to understand in this process of becoming the person you need to become. Number one, and this is why I started with environment. Number one is whatever is not feeding you is starving you. Whatever's not feeding you is starving you. And this is so important because every day we're consuming everything. Okay. What we consume will be indicative of what the scripture says, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So what we consume is very important, because what you consume consumes you. So when you look at your social media feed, like, are those things feeding the narrative of the future you want, or are they starving you? If you caught up with all the entertainers and the rap beefs and who got what contract in sports and who did what on Housewives, is that feeding the narrative of the future you want? Or is that starving the future that you want? It's doing one or the other. There is no in between. Okay. So for many of you, you need to strip down the stuff that you consume every day and make sure that you're consuming stuff that's feeding the person that you're trying to become to do the stuff that you desire to do in your life. Okay. Part of that is also auditing your environment, which is part one of this video series, because you need to go also look at the people you're around and think about the conversations and think about the interactions. And is happy hour every Thursday at your favorite spot the look that you need in this season? Is, going on trips that you can't afford and shopping and buying things in advance and, trying to keep up with the latest trends and getting a new shoe when it came out just to post to other people that you got it and they give you adoration and accolades. But at the same time, like, you put yourself in a more dire financial position in doing so. There has to be some fundamental changes to your environment, because the change to your environment will allow you to think and see yourself differently and start changing your perspective. If you could change your perspective, you could change your situation. Okay. So the first thing is you have to identify the things that you consume every day. Are they feeding you, or are they starving you? And once you arrive at that juncture, you have to figure out then, and look, obviously for me to rattle off rap beefs, and I ain't a hermit, right? I'm consciously aware of what's going on, but 90% of the day I'm consuming things that feed me and not starve me, so that if I consume a little bit of the stuff that could be starving me, it's not detrimental to the things that are feeding me. You copy? All right. So number two, understanding that the only constant in life is change. The only constant in your life is change. And for many people, I was talking with, there's a lady who's interested in coming to our mentorship program for our real estate program. And she was talking about how she was at her previous job for 10 years. And she was like, I wasn't making that much money, but I was comfortable though. Like, I really enjoyed that job. And now I got this new job that I'm making like $25,000 more a year. I hate it, right? Now, in context, they both had a place, right? Because she's identified by being in this new place that she knows that this is a means to an end. Whereas the other place, she may have stayed there, got complacent, and stayed there so long that she never really launched her dreams because of this perceived comfort. which, by the way, she said wasn't making great money, but I was comfortable. So we got to be very careful about where we find comfort at, because from what I hear, there may even be a cold place in hell, but you're still in hell, right? So got to be careful where we find comfort. And we also got to be careful because comfort and complacency are cousins, right? And they both cousins that you don't want to hang with. And so, where was I going with that, y'all? Number 2 was do not find, the only constant in life is change. Okay, only constant in life is change. So, for most people, they're resistant to change for that very reason that the young lady said that she found comfort in being that other job. And, you know, she don't know if and when she would have left had situation not prompted her to leave, right? As it did so abruptly. I don't know if it was a layoff situation or what. And so we have to be careful of that. Way too much in life do people even live nostalgic through relationships or seasons and moments in life that made them feel the best. Like I'm 40 now, and I still see people that I went to high school with living those high school dreams out. I guess that'd be a nightmare at this point, right? If you catch my drift. But it happens every single day because people haven't accepted the fact that they need to change as those seasons are also changing. You can't relive a different moment in time. It just don't work like that, right? That time was that time. And so if you want to continue to create greatness in life, you have to continue to evolve into the person in each individual season and create greatness in those moments in those seasons, period. You don't get to, yesterday's points don't win today's game. That's a writer downer, right? So the only constant in life is change. We have to be always aware that the purpose in life is for you to identify your gifts, identify your purpose, utilize your gifts, deploy them into that purpose, and in that, continue to refine the gift so that you continue to evolve in your purpose. Did y'all catch what I just said? You need to identify what your gifts are. You're going to deploy those into your purpose that God has created you to do. And understand that your gifts will need to be sharpened and the skill will continue to need to be developed around your gift so that it evolves as your purpose evolves. Have you ever thought, so there's a scripture, Romans 8:28, that talks about all things work together for those that love the Lord and been called according to his purpose. Okay. All things work together. God has promised us that everything in our life, good or bad, is working together for our good and his glory. And I think about even going back to a dark place in my life when I was in the streets, for instance. I learned a lot of skills in the street. Skills that were still centered around my gift. So one of my gifts is my ability to teach. Okay. Communication, right? So when I say teach, I mean, God has blessed me with the ability. I take very complex topics and I'm able to distill them and make them very practical and digestible for other people. I don't take credit for that gift because it's not something I'm consciously thinking of doing. It's just that when I actually learn and understand something, I only have one way of communicating it, and that's clear. So I'm just grateful for that, right? But now that I'm aware of it, then I have to continue to hone in on that, right? And develop that skill and invest in myself and learn other effective communication styles and learning different ways to package and deliver conversations and information to people, right? Because I got a responsibility with that gift. And so, man, I keep going on these tangents, y'all. They good though, ain't they? So it's important that when you look at your life, I remember now, when you look at your life, there will be moments in time that you'll be able to extract things that you did well in those seasons that you're using right now in a whole different season. And you never saw the correlation between the two. Y'all tracking? So for instance, when I was in the streets, I was always good at leadership. I always treated that as a business, even though it was, y'all know what it is, right? And also been really good with people, right? Like figuring out what make people tick And so sales, essentially, right? Well, the gift is the gift, perverted, albeit in that environment. But now, as a full time entrepreneur, I utilize a lot of those same skills that I was doing as a late teen, right? Although in a perverted environment, it was still, um, it was still honing in and refining my gift. So God will use our sin for His good, right? And that's scripture. So I want you to just start thinking about different areas of your life and different seasons of your life that you were flourishing, good or bad. And I promise you that if you look close enough, you will find that those skills are being repurposed in another season of your life. So you should be encouraged by that. Okay. So the only constant in life is change. It is intended to be that way. If you resist change, your whole life will pass you by. I promise you. Look at people that's 60, 70, still with the same friends from 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they still got a bunch of remember when stories. It's sad. That means you missed your whole life. And I ain't about to show up at the pearly gates and talking to God about how I just blew mine. Oh, you gave me 80 years and I fumbled it just hanging around the same people doing the same stuff? Oh, no, not me. Because I seen what happened in the parable of the 3 talents, right? He gave one 5, they doubled it to 10. He gave the other one 2, and they doubled it to 4. And he gave the other one 1, and that one went out in fear and buried it. And God showed up and said, "Get away from me, you wicked servant." Oh, I ain't going to be that guy. I'm about to keep multiplying. And through multiplication, I understand that different seasons and different vision require different provisions. So I'm always open-handed with my relationships, my resources and everything, because I know that God got something better for me at every different level. Okay. So number one, if it's not feeding you, it's starving you. Number two, the only constant in life is change. And number three is you can only behave consistently in what you believe. You can only behave consistently in what you believe. So I was recently having this conversation about one of the biggest challenges, I believe, for my era, right? So I would be at the top end of a millennial. Well, most of us millennials were raised by baby boomers, right? And so, my dad was a firefighter for the city of Detroit for 30 years. My mom was a cashier at the grocery store for 25 years. So they grew up in a very blue collar society. And for them, comparatively speaking to a lot of their siblings and those that came before them, they did tremendously well for themselves. Okay. However, at 12, I knew that I was going to be a money guy, and that wasn't going to be my life. I knew that working would be a part of it, but it would not to be the end of it. Okay. And as I continue forward in my journey, although yes, I went to college, although yes, I went and worked in corporate America for about a decade, I knew, right? And here I am as a living testimony that, yeah, I walked away from corporate at 35, which showed that, contrary to my parents' belief in that go to work for 30 years, hopefully retire, get a pension was the best route to go. It was the best route to go for them. But I had to be an independent thinker and accept the fact that that wasn't going to be the best way to go for me. Well, why is that important? It's important because we will only behave consistently in what we believe. And because for many of the people in my demographic as millennials, been raised by boomers, we haven't believed that we can be our own owner of our own company, that we can utilize things like real estate investing to retire from corporate America and have time freedom and financial freedom, and live life on our own terms. Many of us don't believe that. Or even if it's not real estate, many of us don't believe that we have the gifting, that we can go out and create coaching and consulting businesses that can earn us multiple 6 figures, 7 figures a year while serving people at the highest level and getting paid to do so. Most of us don't realize or believe that the skills that we acquired in corporate America, working for someone else, where they paid us a salary, a fraction of what our worth is, that if we took those same skills and positioned ourselves in the marketplace to go help smaller companies that need those same services, that we can go out and make 10 times more in a year than what we do at our employer. If we don't believe that, then we will never behave consistently with going to pursue that. So number three is so important, which it was really number one. I just flip flopped them. Is that you will only behave consistently with what you believe. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what do you really believe? What do you believe? What do you believe your life can really be? What do you believe about money? What's your philosophy about money? What's your ideology about money? Did you grow up in a scarcity household where people spoke into everything as if it was a scam and the bill collectors are the devil? And right? Did you grow up like that? Did you grow up in an abundant environment around money where people use money as a tool as opposed to the other way around? Like, what do you believe about money? Because what you believe about money is how you're behaving consistently with money. What do you believe about marriage? That you can have an amazing marriage for decades and decades, and that both of you are going to evolve and stay in communication and go to coaching and do you believe that that's possible, or do you believe that you just coexist as roommates? What do you believe? What do you believe about parenting? That is your job to parent, that you can be a friend with your child? Is it live vicariously through them? Like, what do you believe about that area of your life? What do you believe about your health? Did somebody die of sickness at a young age and you believe that that's going to be you? So you live life in fear every day? I don't know. Or do you believe that regardless of what you look like today, that you could have the healthiest lifestyle ever if you just commit to it? If you just have a clear vision and commit to it and don't stop pursuing it? What do you believe about being in position to give like nobody else gives? Because you're in that financial position where you and your family well taken care of and you could do more for others. Do you believe that? Because if you do, then what you do with your finances today will determine if you ever become that person tomorrow. It won't be once I get there and I got this, then I do that. No, tithing and giving starts now, even if you're in the negative. There are fundamentals and things that has to happen to position you for that time. Do you really believe that you can have time freedom and go around and serve and have nonprofits and go back and give back and do you believe that's a reality for you? Because if it is, you will behave consistently now in result of what you want to get out of that later. So yes, we talked about the environment needs to change in the previous video. But now we're getting down to the meat of it. You have to change. You have to become the person to attract the new people that you're going to need for your new vision. And I was very intentional in saying new vision, because if you didn't catch that from this video, you need to write it down. New vision, clear vision. What do you want in every aspect of your life? Number one, whatever's not feeding you is starving you. Number two, the only constant in life is change. And number three, you will only behave consistently with what you believe. Time to do the evaluation. It's time to do the work. Comment, let me know if this blessed you. Also, share it with somebody that you're thinking about that could benefit from it. And I will see you guys in the next one.